Nigeria ranks among the top 10 countries with least life expectancy, according to data from United Nations from 2023. What could be the factors responsible for putting us on the throne, perpetually ushering death to claim its citizens?
It's a combination of many factors. We have to consider the low socioeconomic status of the average Nigerians. We are really low down there in the poverty index. And so when people are poor, they have poor access to um, quality health services. They have they tend to engage in more risky activities, right? They can't get good food, so they are nutritionally deficient. Um, Risky jobs, like we said, uh, all of this negatively impacts the life expectancy of the average person. So I'll pin it down to poverty to start with, right? But if we then break it down to what happens when they get sick, then a couple of other factors come into play, right? So, for example, we have to consider the level of literacy, right? So, your level of education determines the exposure and what you think you should do when you have a health challenge, right? So, but besides the level of literacy, you also have to consider people's beliefs. I'm talking about beliefs here, we're talking about both the traditional um, background as well as the religious background. So, what do you think should be done when you are ill? So people think that accessing um, healthcare facility means lack of belief in their own faith. So it doesn't mean that God cannot heal you, whether as a Christian or a Muslim or even some traditional people. They believe that they should seek, cures for their illnesses from you know, their spiritual beliefs, right? And that's also a problem because it means that they don't approach the health facilities at the time when an intervention would likely succeed. Okay, and then finally, so we've talked about the level of literacy, we've talked about religious belief, right? Then we can talk about the health facility themselves. How equipped are they? Whatever equipment in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the right kind of health workers, skill wise, experience wise, and general attitude to patient care.
When it comes to living, it is not unusual to fall sick from time to time, and when this occurs, we turn to medicine for rejuvenation and revitalization. However, in Nigeria recently, big pharmaceutical companies left the country because of unfavorable business conditions, leading to access to pharmaceuticals. One could outrightly guess the effect this would have on people. This also follows fear of increase in fake drugs in circulation.
That's a very brilliant observation. This is a big problem that is still unfolding, right? So the cost of healthcare just got even more there to the average person. The average Nigerian pays for treatment out of pocket, right? So if you have to buy a medication, I'll give you an instance. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, right? And I treat a lot of patients with arthritis with intraarticular injections. These injections, when I started giving them, introducing them, they were just a few years back, they were about 20,000 per per vial, right? Later became 40,000. As at last year, still bought them for 45,000 thereabouts. About 4 months ago, 60,000. Now it's running to 80 something thousand. So you can imagine that the patient who got that injection last year and wants to a repeat of it is paying double the price. They will definitely not. I mean, a lot of them will just come back at that point. And then it affects the quality of their life, right? Antibiotics have gone really expensive. So you can imagine someone who has to be on a certain type of antibiotic maybe 3 times a day for a stretch of 10 days or 2 weeks. They add that running costs to the cost of also servicing the healthcare facility. You realize that the cost of return to health has, probably doubled and become, if it was not affordable, for the average patient out of pocket. It has gone way out of their limits, right? It's a big concern. Definitely would affect uh, the health seeking behavior of people. Okay? Because you know, if I go to the hospital now, I would have to spend my last savings. Right? Why don't I just go somewhere and hope for miraculous healing? Or why don't I just go somewhere, take some herbs and hope to feel better? Right? So these things will definitely affect the eventual health indexes and definitely mortality rates.
To avoid getting sick, it is important to take note of what we eat. After all, it is said what we consume is what we are. Luckily in Nigeria, there are abundance of natural food compared to other Western countries which seem to have abundance of ultra-processed food. Let's take a look at how our diet could ultimately save our lives.
So yes, that's one of the blessings that we have enjoyed in the country for a while, right? We've been able to stick with the more natural foods, right? So our staple diet would largely consist of rice, beans, yam. Typically, then going to other varieties of the same, uh, staple diet, right? Okay, so I mentioned rice, beans, yam, corn, right? And then we now have people going from making from corn going to things like pap, right? From yam, people make pounded yam, people make ulubo, to make amala, right? From beans, people make all sorts. People make akara, people make moi moi, and the likes. Okay, so yeah, we've largely limited ourselves to natural foods, and then for people to eat meat, semovita kind of things, and then for our what our soups, we also take a lot of vegetables, right? Okra, ewedu, the efforts, like these are very healthy diets for so many reasons. They give us the wide variety of different classes of foods, the protein, carbohydrates, the fats, the oils, the minerals that we need, and very essentially the fibers. Right? These fibers are very important because they encourage adequate digestion and bowel movements, right? Poor bowel movements, I must mention here, is a major risk factor for the development of what is known as colorectal cancer, right? That's cancer of the large intestine, right? So people who tend to eat processed foods uh, low in fiber, what is known as roughage, okay? They would have slower bowel movement because the gut has less to squeeze on, right? And with the slower bowel movement, it means that the waste product of the food gets a longer exposure with the lining of the intestine, right? So the lining of the intestine gets irritated by those wastes. If it's just for a short while, the body recovers. But the constant exposure or persistent exposure to this waste several years due to large consumption of this processed food means that the person becomes at a higher risk of development of these cancers, colorectal cancer, which is the third commonest cancer or fourth, depending on what source you're looking at, third or fourth commonest cancers affecting human beings generally over the world. Okay, so we've been enjoying some protection from this. But in the past, say 2 decades now, uh, we've been, let me say, westernizing our diets. A lot of people now see Western diet as a mark of good living and mark of higher social class. And so people want to take those things just to feel better with themselves and so to show their class to their neighbors. So we've shifted from our staple diet to the westernized diet. Furthermore, because many of our lands, particularly in this region of the country, we are now converting many of our lands to industrial or domestic environments. So these areas have been domesticated or industrialized, and we have less land available for farming, which means that many of our foods have to be, let's say imported, but they're brought from other states down to uh, Western Nigeria.
Importance of exercise for good health can be overemphasized. However, it is important to note different body types in order to avoid unnecessary body shaming.
We can easily classify body types or body builds to 3 types, right? what is called the ectomorphs, right? These are slim built people, right? Or slender people, what you would call leper, right? Then we have the endomorphs, right? These are the chubby, stocky built people. And then you have the mesomorph, who are somewhere in between, muscular, not too thin, not too chubby people. Okay, so the best would be the mesomorphs. These are the muscular, athletic people, not too chubby, not too slim, right? That said, I think that people also need to accommodate and recognize the varieties of body builds that are just out there. You cannot outrightly call it body shame people because they are far to the left or far to the right. And as to people preferring one type to the other, that is showing more preference of the mesomorph, the endomorph, that is the chubby people compared to the slender people. I'm not quite sure that is the case. Reason being that, so yes, definitely people associate being slim to maybe not having enough to eat. Okay, and so from there there can be some form of discrimination. But also people regard the chubby people being overweight, who see them as being lazy. There's a lot of social discrimination that these people suffer, and I think it's one of the least recognized form of social discrimination. Right? The people who are chubby actually suffer a lot, and people don't recognize it. I'll tell you what: chubby person goes into a commercial bus, and the so basically it's a four-passenger seats on a row, right? So the passengers that are already in the bus begin to frown and make faces because they realize that the chubby person is going to take up space for like two people and they have to squeeze themselves, right? So already they begin to put up a defensive facade and defensive affect to the person that is coming in. And, this is not being spoken about, right? You go to airplanes, you want to take a flight, there are no seats for chubby people. So how do they get to sit for a single passenger? There's no plan, there's no arrangement for them. Some of those doors are so narrow and the passengers are so narrow that you can't take a chubby person, right? Toilet seats cannot accommodate the chubby person. Even when it comes to the hospitals, to our seats, the operating theater table, the diagnostic machines may not be able to, may not, are not, some of them cannot accommodate the chubby people. So you don't realize that the chubby person gets here, finds that the facility cannot accommodate him or her, goes to the next place, facility cannot accommodate him or her. They go for job interviews and the interviewer just thinks, oh, this person is chubby, must be lazy, must like sleep a lot and like food a lot. And so not automatically, subconsciously doesn't want to offer chubby person the job. And a lot of this is not recognized in society. So I think that it's not true if you conclude that people tend to prefer the chubby build to the leopard build. The leopard build, as the ectomorphs, do not suffer many of these things that I have mentioned. So it's not just about the verbal abuse and what they experience by verbal social discrimination. There are a lot of silent social discrimination that the chubby person goes through, and people are not really aware of that.
As a lot of Nigerians battle economic hardship, it is important to consider another factor that is threatening the whole country and dropping people dead by the second: stress. How people cope with it and dangers of drug abuse as coping mechanism gets our attention.
Sometimes you see people, they develop apathy. They don't show interest in life. That's what one of the things drug can cause. So when people are not interested in anything, you realize that they will become withdrawn. They become depressed. They now become dependent on those drugs because only the drug creates the world they desire. So their attitude, because so when you see people youths behaving abnormal, they're always withdrawn, on their own. So you know that something is substance that is affected, and they now start craving. So they crave for escape. They're trying to escape reality. So they're not interested in pursuing anything in future. They don't have any hope for future. They just want to to be in that state where they are in a euphoria. Unfortunately, the world is not meant that way. You can't achieve much. The reality will still come. So they keep trying to escape from it, and it affects the attitude in family, in the community, and even at work. Some of them drop off school, drop off work, performance drops drastically. So on a whole, it affects the whole chain of life cycle. There's some time in the southeast, you will know what the one they call in their local parents, it causes a lot of damage. People take it and they lose cognition. They even kill their mother, so kill themselves. So they are not coordinated. Their cognitive ability, fails. So that is one of the things that you can see drugs can cause. It can lead to large death and all the other collateral damages. It's quite unfortunate.
Basically, what does it portend to the future of this country?
If unchecked, it's going to be disaster, because the number is multiplying like virus. The number of use, and it's also basically a failure from home. Yes, if you watch the causes or risk factors for drug abuse, you see that close to 80% has to do with family, parenting, and the rest of it. So if there is crack, as it were, it's going to affect the homes, going to affect the country. We cannot have people who are drug addicts leading the country tomorrow, or serious business concerns, or management meetings and the rest. So it portends danger to safety, because all these involved in all these delinquencies, kidnapping, killing, and all kinds of things, is because people have been disoriented. So the future is bleak if the drug abuse is not given the attention that it deserves. And these children are getting bolder by the day. You see them on the street corners smoking all sorts of things and mixing up things in drinks. You see them holding some bottles, and you think they are taking mineral. It's mixed with dangerous substances that it makes them to get high. So it's a lot of danger to the populace and the country in future if the ugly tide is not stemmed. Parents should not be too busy not to look into what their children are doing. Still surprise the children by checking what they are doing, checking their bags, and being available to be able to listen to their conversation. Influence from home is one of the most powerful influence. So, and if it is missed, the society will influence. So parents should still do their work. A lot of rebuke falls on parents to be able to family, because there is even a genetic aspect to drug abuse. So if someone has parents who abuse drug, the person has a higher chance of abusing drug. So there is that genetic aspect, family history of drug abuse. And then if the parents are not firm, so it's their children, it doesn't matter, they will change. They inculcate that, and it becomes a serious issue. So the family needs to do something. Then the government also needs to set up rehabilitation centers and make sure that they have enough manpower. We have a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists who are involved in rehabilitation. Those areas should be very well developed, so that in addition to preventing from family, curative and management is key. So if people identify to be abusing substance, there are centers where they can be taken to, including general measures used by family, by churches, and by community to try to rehabilitate. They should not be left on their own. Incidentally, when efforts are made, a lot are recovered, and they turn from that abuse.
It has consequences. So with many of these drugs of abuse, the challenge with them is the patient begin to develop what we call physiological dependence and psychological dependence, right? So their body can no longer function normally without taking those drugs. Okay, that is physiological dependence. And psychological dependence means that patient cannot maintain what we will regard as a normal psychological well-being without those drugs. And then the next thing is that they become addicted to the drug, right? And if they don't take the drug, they start to show certain withdrawal symptoms, and even get violence, right? So you have a lot of youth who can't maintain sanity outside of the drugs, and eventually some of those drugs also make them to also come up with vices, right? And they begin to engage themselves in harmful behaviors to themselves and to their environment. Then the next step is when they start getting addicted and they can't get, maybe they run out of funds to keep up with the purchase of the drugs. Then they become even more violent. They're trying to steal or trying to grab things, to sell. They become very responsible to themselves and to their family. They run out of their savings, right? They begin to sell family properties just to keep up, right? And I've seen so many examples of this ruin, individuals and ruin families. Eventually, the person becomes very prone, right, to hazardous diseases as well. Okay, particularly those injectables, right? When someone having to inject themselves every day or twice a day, they're increasing the risk of infection going to their veins and their blood system, and have infection like hepatitis, right? So when they eventually get infected to inject themselves with contaminated needles, they can get infections like HIV, right? And all of this definitely have impact on their life expectancy. So alcohol intake, while I would not outrightly regard it as a vice, it is irresponsible alcohol intake that I would consider as a vice, right? And what am I saying here? So you find many of these, particularly young and middle-aged adults, who engage in early morning alcohol intake. They come in different forms. They believe that this make them to worry less about their problems. It makes them to be more active at work or to be less inhibited, right, at work. And so they feel they can get to work and, just do what they have to do, not care about their problems, not care about their family problems. So why would you want to care about your problems? That means you're trying to lose responsibility for your problems, and leads to irresponsible behavior. So for me, I see it as it's a marker to something deeper going down there. And banning alcohol outrightly would not actually solve the problem, because they will simply just move from one vice to the next, right? Which we don't know what that is. Okay, so people stop taking alcohol. They can't get it legally, they will go for it illegally. They can't get it illegally, they'll go for something else. They can go for drugs of abuse, like these injectables or the ones that they smoke. And you just keep banning one thing to another, right? People take all sorts of crazy things now, right? And even what should be medicinal, we go for it and abuse it, right? There's this time there was this cough syrup that contained codeine. It's supposed to be codeine as an excellent uh, uh, let me just use a lot less technical word, something to relieve cough and then the discomfort that comes with cough. And the drug was excellent, right? But people started mixing these things with drinks, right? And it was a real mess. Okay, so the society, I think many of these things still come back to the socioeconomic status of the society. If people have, of course, with the higher social class, you still have people taking alcohol. You still have people taking it irresponsibly. But I think there's a lot less tendency to overindulge in it, in all these vices, right? When you feel more secure financially, you feel more secure mentally, you have a better home front that you think you are responsible for. I think people would tend to be better. And then also we need a lot of rehabilitative facilities for people who have been through this to be able to get out of it, right? And like, trust me, in these rehabilitative places, they work wonders, but we have very few of them around, and people don't have access to these facilities. Of course, even when you have these facilities around, there are still other problems like stigmatization. Oh, I'm going to rehab. People begin to see you as, like, is this person mad or something? Right? So a lot of people try to avoid, but we don't even have many of these facilities to start with. And that's one of the places that I think the government can look into, rather than focusing on banning this and banning that. There are other creative ways solving these social problems. I've seen people who do a lot of physical activities, exercises specifically, and exercises help a lot with coping with stress, right? Taking a walk, jogging, you have group, physical activity groups like attending a gym, then that social interaction may also help. You can also have friends from the gym, and that can help relieve the stress. Aside that, there are also small focus groups that with people who share maybe similar problems, right? Uh, and they can talk about their individual experiences, how, and then someone who has some expertise with helping people navigate those problems can help them out. Okay. Then again, instead of indulging in, say, alcohol, for example, people can indulge in healthier alternatives, right? So instead of taking alcoholic drink, why don't you take a smoothie or a fruit juice, right? So these are healthy alternatives that people can switch to, right? But coping with stress generally, I think more social interactions, right? Social interaction will start from the family. Okay, so instead of going out there to buy the sachet drinks and just while away time somewhere, why don't you spend that quality time with your family? Create, bond better with your family, your wife or husband or kids. Talk about your day, and each person shares their experiences, and you're better for it. You can advise each other on, oh, you should have done this or that. That's better ways to handle their day-to-day challenges, and people are better for it. From the family unit, people also have, I think this is where our religious affiliations have a lot to do. People have, a lot of people go to churches and mosques to, have these social interactions, and then they, have some support groups among themselves, right? Women association, ushers or choirs, and then these groups can also help people to be able to deal better with their life challenges, and they help a lot. One recent danger that I've noticed the past decade or two with the advent of internet and social media is that a lot of us, particularly the younger generation right now, have less human interactions, right? And they interface with unknown people on Facebook or X or WhatsApp, and try to fill up that gap of the need for social interactions with social media. And I think that's why it may give them a wider reach, they may have less quality relationships and less depth relationships. And this definitely will impact on the mental capacity and the emotional balance of this generation that we are seeing right in front of us.
With much attention given to what we eat, our environment shouldn't be short on attention, for this is our precious home which provides us with all we need to ensure survival. Now let us take a few moments to zoom out on the Niger Delta region in Nigeria. While life expectancy is pegged at an average of about 63 years in Nigeria, the people in Niger Delta only have in their pouch about 40 years of life. Here's why.
The Niger Delta life expectancy is around 41, 42, thereabout, while it is higher in other regions. And most of us who have been working in the field, especially monitoring oil industry-induced pollution, whether it is gas blowout, gas flaring, oil spills, unclean oil spills, that the fumes will always be taken by the sun, the heat of the sun to the atmosphere. And then we also have some spill sites set ablaze and whole forests, whole bush go on fire. So all these go ahead to make the environment really not so healthy for the people of the Niger Delta. And when you also take into consideration the UNEP report on Ogoni or on the Niger Delta, because that UNEP report was supposed to cover the entire Niger Delta in terms of recommendation, but it somehow narrowed down to Ogoni. And we are happy today that we have that UNEP report saying that in some places, benzene, the, the, the agents that is causing cancer that is found in crude oil, part of an element in crude oil, was found above World Health Standard, approved standard, up to 700 times above the standard. And now, if you also take into consideration where NOSDRA, the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, its leadership in 2014, if you Google, you will get this report, made a statement that Bayelsa State is most polluted. And when you say most polluted, also consider Delta State, consider Akwa Ibom, Ondo State, Edo State, where crude oil has been extracted or exploited for about 7 decades. Now, with the oil spills and all of that, we are drinking water polluted, we are breathing air that is polluted, and we are also eating some of the fish, the animal, the fruit, the root crops, and whatever we have in this environment, also some of them so polluted. So you can understand why. If you also take into consideration the fact that the oil industry also has a kind of politics that has led to injustice and uprising in the Niger Delta, where youths cut off their life in their prime. Some are just 20-something years, 30-something years, less than 20, they die because they want to show themselves as patriots who are fighting for environmental and social justice. If you put all together, you will get that answer that life expectancy in the Niger Delta is actually attributable to oil industry-induced pollution and the oil politics of the denial.
This, however, makes one wonder who should be blamed for the degradation of the Niger Delta.
Oil theft is not new, and in the process of doing that in the creeks, yes, there have been spills, no doubt. But like one of them would say, if the genuine spills are not being cleaned up by the oil companies and the federal government due to regulatory capture, and our people can no longer fish or have their seafood, they can no longer catch fish the way they used to. So they should, if they found where they can also make ends meet, even if it is bunkering or illegal refineries, so be it. We have the videos where the guy was saying that even though we do not support unlicensed activities in the creeks, that's why some of us, both as an organization and at individual level, have been advocating that the federal government should recognize these artisanal refiners, bring them together, instead of throwing away the water and the baby, the bathwater and the baby together. See how the country can benefit from their activities, especially when you juxtapose it with the perennial scarcity of petroleum products. That would help us. But even when the former Vice President Osibanjo toured the Niger Delta at the wake of the Niger Delta Avengers, he made the promise, because each of the states he went to, the issue was people. He made far-reaching pronouncement that the federal government and the oil companies, they are going to come together to bring these artisanal refiners together to form hubs of petrochemical industry. Unfortunately, that has gone into voicemail as any other good thing meant for the commoners. You see, so the oil theft relating to oil spills, yes, it happens. But we have also investigated that some oil company workers have also been instigating people, some willing tools in the communities to cause some of these spills. We have investigated, we have videos, we've interviewed people, some that were used by these oil company workers, especially those who respond to spill incidents in the response department of these oil companies. They are the first people that will be called. They are the first to get to the site to confirm that there is spill. So they have been sponsoring some of these oil spills. And when they sponsor the oil spills, they get the contract out for cleanup, which they never even clean up well, and they sublet the contract to the same boys, the same people in the community that they have used to cause the oil spills. All these are known to some of us, not only known, we have the facts in terms of audio and video recordings. You see, so these spills are there. Then apart from that, we have the genuine oil spills that occur as a result of operational failure. Operational failure, for example, the December 2011 Bonga spill, that's an operational failure. A major oil spill from Shell's Bonga facility. Then on the 27th of November 2013, we also had a major oil spill which occurred as a result of operational failure from Egypt's export loading terminal at Brass, and the whole sea was flooded with crude oil. That was also operational failure. We also had the 16th January 2012 Chevron gas explosion off Olama and Fishtown here in Bayelsa State, which resulted into a major destruction of aquatic life in the Atlantic Ocean. Seriously, whales died, dolphins died, and several other fish died. We are catching fish with our hands right in the ocean, fishes that were in the throes of death. So these are operational failures. They were not caused by any person, but by the company themselves while they were operating. We also have equipment failure, where old pipes that were supposed to be replaced, instead of to replace the aging pipes, they continue to use them, and the pipes will be bursting on their own as a result of rust and pressure on the pipeline. We have some of them on the wellheads, on valves, at the manifolds. So equipment failure incidents are also many that are causing these spills in the Niger Delta. Let me tell you, during the COVID-19 restrictions, when movement was restricted, all the spills that happened in Bayelsa State were attributed to equipment failure, whether it is on Shell's non-river flow station field, whether it is on Ajib Tebidaba area or in the Bara area, Shell's facility around Odioma, and all of that, whether IT or so, all of them were as a result of equipment failure. So what are they talking about third-party interference every time? They should replace their old aged pipelines, and they should also take integrity checks on their facility very seriously. Then also, they should also stop sponsoring the oil spills. These oil company workers, they should stop sponsoring the oil spills so as to give our community people bad name. No, we are really not happy with that type of situation. Then we also have regulatory capture. Regulatory capture in the sense that instead of these regulatory agencies to be up and doing, they depend on the oil companies for logistics. The oil companies will provide vehicles to carry them to sites of interest. The oil companies will give them brown envelope. The oil companies will give them accommodation. The oil company will give them protection. Then what do you expect? They dance to the tune of the oil companies. And if any staff of these regulatory agencies try to stand his or her ground, by the time you know, they will tell his boss in the office, please, we don't want this guy to be sent to our site again next time. And that person will stay in the office. So some of these want to protect themselves by going to the site, for them to have that brown envelope that supports them when they are returning after their 2 weeks stay in the field. By the time they are returning with something. Daddy, welcome. They buy bread and return home. So we have been saying that the oil companies should be on their own, while the regulators are properly funded by the federal government. Fund them well so that they will act as independent, unbiased regulators in the interests of the nation. We are not saying that they should unduly oppress the oil companies. No, we only need the facts. They should stand in the middle as unbiased umpire to say what is right and do what is right.
Sadly, the damage has been done. It is only appropriate to look up to the way forward. How do we go about cleaning our environment to ensure longevity of life?
It is really, really unfortunate that we are still seeing ourselves as minority and majority in this country. Otherwise, what has happened here in the Niger Delta is really a ecological war on the people of the Niger Delta. If you travel around the creeks, while we are growing up, we see oyster, special oyster, clinging to the roots of the mangroves as we go along, you see them. And it's very proteinous. But today, you will travel whole length of mangrove environment without seeing one single oyster clinging to those mangroves. What about periwinkle? Areas that have been affected by crude oil spill in mangrove area, in the saltwater area, if they keep all the periwinkle and the crustaceans. During the OML 29 Santa Barbara incident that occurred about 3-4 years ago in Nembe, by the time we visited the place, in a 1 square meter environment, we were able to pick about 10 or so big crab, edible crab, there in their different stages of decomposition. Now, if we can see this within a square meter, what about the entire environment? As we speak today, Shell's facility here in Yanagwa local government area exploded on the 14th of May. And when we visited again on the 18th of May, we saw several dead fishes, dead snails, because the explosion also led to serious fire that engulfed the entire area. So we saw several dead animals in the environment, not to talk about fish that were in their different stages of decomposition, big and small. So our people have really been shortchanged. The means of livelihood of the people of the Niger Delta is something that needs compensation. They need to be properly compensated for the loss of means of livelihood. As we speak today, hunger is everywhere. I know it is nationwide, but we know how many people will send you text message every day that they've not eaten from morning till night with their children. Now, if you have denied us of our means of livelihood, which is mainly fishing and farming, and you have polluted our rivers, where we cannot fish anymore, tell me, have you not killed us? So that in itself is like killing us slowly. And thinking too can also lead to this type of depression that will make life not being bearable and then brutish and short in the Niger Delta. So like you did say, a lot has happened to the people of the Niger Delta. I have seen in 2012, when that Chevron incident happened, I have seen whales die, dolphins die, and several other fishes. And a particular nest where we saw crayfish, they were like sand. They were like sand that was stuck into the crayfish, all dead. So this oil industry induced pollution is something that Nigeria has not even talked about. It's a great ecological warfare on the people of the Niger Delta. While Nigeria is smiling to the bank, individuals are still looting this fund. That's why they are looting, because the money is coming left, right, and center. And they cannot even monitor the oil companies, regulate them very well. And that is where we are concerned about this regulatory capture. There is need for an effective, independent regulator of the oil industry, where the regulator will be properly funded for them to do the needful. If the community is wrong, say it. If the oil company is wrong, don't miss well. Make sure that there is always cleanup, compensation, please. So the type of cleanup that is ongoing in Ogoni, the United recommended type of cleanup, is what we want to happen in all the Niger Delta states that are having legacy spill sites. As we speak, the Bayelsa state government established, set up an independent investigation. This is the report. The Bayelsa Oil and Environment Commission came up with this report, a damning report, which is almost like the UNEP report on Bayelsa State. And they are talking about billions of naira to, not even naira, dollars to ensure that the environment is properly cleaned up. Now, if you don't do this, we want to stand on this, and if that's not taken very soon, we are going to stage a very serious protest. Yet, companies like Shell, AG, and the others want to run away. After polluting the land, they want to run to the sea and continue to do that in the ocean. We are saying if you want to divest, there is no problem. You can divest and go. It's your property. But involve the community, because most of them, you do not pay for the community land where you have your facility. Before you give out your facility in that land to another person, let the community know. Also, you have to clean up the mess you have caused in the land. You have destroyed something in my land. You don't just give it to another person and run away, except the buyer will agree that he will take full responsibility of the liability that you are leaving behind. And for you to do that, you have to put it in black and white, an agreement that I will take both asset and liability. It is only that which will satisfy the people of the Niger Delta. Besides that, we won't accept it. And I'm so happy that the House of Reps has also come up with a standing statement that the divestment issue be put on hold until the concerns raised by communities and stakeholders are addressed. And we want that to remain standing and to ensure that justice is done to the people of the Niger Delta.
The medical professions make top list of important professions in all areas of the world. They are the ones we literally put our lives in their hands. Sadly, in Nigeria, there is mass exodus of health workers in thousands, leaving those behind with so much burden. This is what most of our health workers face.
We are having a serious crisis of shortage of health workers, and I think that there's a lot of it's getting a lot less attention than people giving it. Can I say this from the point of view of someone who has been around for a short while, enough to experience the difference in the available manpower in the health facilities, right? And for someone who works in Lagos, which is one of the most privileged parts of the country, still able to experience this shortage, then I can tell that it's lots more severe in other countries, other states around, and even far to the borders of the country. Generally because people tend to drift towards the urban areas. So, what are the factors responsible for this? So, the average health worker, and in this case, I'm talking about the medical doctors, the dentists, the nurses, the physiotherapists, and the lab scientists generally. They generally commit a lot to our profession, right? I will speak particularly for doctors and nurses. There's a lot of commitment to the job. It's almost like there is an unwritten social contract, right? That you should dedicate yourselves caring for people. In fact, you're expected to make sacrifices. I can tell you for free that a health worker, particularly a doctor and nurse, who takes his job just like a routine job, doesn't he doesn't do it with passion, doesn't make sacrifices from time to time, will really not be delivering optimal healthcare service, particularly in our environment, right? So a lot is demanded from the health worker, and in return, there should be some benefits to these health workers. And I say this without any restraint. What we find in our environment is that the health worker doesn't feel appreciated by our employers in terms of remuneration and considerations for welfare packages and other things. The health worker doesn't feel appreciated by the patients, right? So I'll tell you, for example, in some of these countries that our colleagues are jackpot into, say, doctor, you walk into a mat, right? If you find a queue, once you're identified as a doctor or a nurse, a health worker, people tell you, oh, Just go to the front. You don't have to wait in the queue. But in a queue, say in my workplace, in the hospital, an ATM queue with my coat and everything, everybody knows this is a doctor. I will still have to, join the queue. And this just shows you that there is a background lack of appreciation that people can palpably feel, right? And it tells on the psyche of the workers. Okay, so we talked about poor remuneration, we talked about underappreciation, both from the employers and the people that we're working for, right? Then the strain of the gaps in manpower is being felt by the few people that are left behind. So people come to the hospital expecting the same quality of service that will be delivered by a facility that has adequate manpower. So people come to the clinic, for example, and expect that they should not have to wait for more than 1 hour to see a doctor. People get on the ward, and the moment they say, "Oh, hey, nurse," they want a nurse to show up immediately. But whereas in the ward of, say, about 10 patients or 12 patients, we used to have 4 nurses. We now have only 1 or 2 nurses. You definitely cannot have the same amount of attention. And people begin to, instead of looking at the roots of the problem, people take out this frustration on the same health workers. People shout at them. People go out there and abuse them, write all kind of discouraging things about them, and sometimes even physically assault them, right? And all of this could tell on the psyche of the health workers. So they begin to ask themselves, why don't I go to another place where I work less, I'm paid better, and I'm better appreciated? So you can definitely see that the pull, all right, from these countries is a lot stronger than the pull to want to serve your country, to want to take care of your people, and to want to be with your fellow countrymen. The encouragement is a lot more for people to just move out there and make a better life for themselves and for their families and be better appreciated. And that is the basis of the Jackpot syndrome. So what can the government do about this? The government have to encourage people to, I mean, they obviously cannot, reasonably speaking, compete in terms of remuneration, but you can make it better. You can develop welfare packages that would bridge the gap to some reasonable extent. And of course, we're all reasonable people. People will then begin to say, well, why do I have to leave my country, leave my family, because of, just a little difference in remuneration, okay? And I think it goes beyond even healthcare workers anyways. There's a lot of frustration in the country because of hunger, because of poverty, and I think our government needs to be more responsive to the common people. We can't continue to see government that prioritize their own luxury over the life and the livelihood of the common man, because this brings a lot of frustration to the common man. And whenever they have the opportunity to exit the country, they are very happy to take that leap, even to a country of uncertainty. People are still willing to take that chance and leave the country. And it cuts across several professions, not just the health workers. It's just very biting because sometimes the emergent nature of the patient's needs, when it's not met, can be really devastating.
Despite the fact that statistics for longevity does not incline in our favor in Nigeria, we have lots to do in ensuring we live healthy and fulfilled lives. Small intentional measures go a long way in extending our health lives. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and philosopher, said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." While we might not know for certain the time death would come to visit, we should ensure that we do not, with our own feet, run excitedly to meet him halfway. This is where we will be drawing the curtains close on this episode of Firecrackers. Thank you so much for staying with us.